Good morning.
I was actually thinking of ringing you, Alex, before you've come on the show, because there's lots of clubs who haven't signed any players yet. And I was going to ask you, give me a rundown.
In the Premier League. Certainly West Ham yet to make a signing, Fulham and Everton, I think, as well.
That's right, yeah. I mean, it's still early. The window's
only
just open, really. So it's going to get busier for Alex, certainly. And I'm sure you're going to be talking a lot about Harry Kane. So what's the latest?
Well, when that first offer was mooted from Germany, I was told in no uncertain terms by sources at Spurs that any bid would be rejected out of hand. I don't believe that stance has changed. Certainly the figures that you're speaking about won't be enough to persuade Daniel Levy to cash in on his star striker. I think, as you say, it's going to have to hit triple figures for Daniel Levy even to be tempted. And I know there's a bit of frustration as well from Levy that maybe Bayern Munich have gone about this in a slightly underhand way, as you say, by approaching the Harry Kane camp before they've even made a formal bid to Spurs. That does happen a lot in the modern world of transfers, but we know that Daniel Levy is a ruthless, a tough negotiator, and it's not part of his plan to sell Harry Kane this summer. So unless Harry Kane actively tries to force the move, then I think he'll still be a Tottenham player.
Okay.
Alex, what do you make of Man United's situation with De Gea?
I think it was handled badly. I agree with Bruno Fernandes when he tweeted at the weekend that David De Gea deserved the opportunity to say farewell. 12 years at one football club is unheard of in the modern game. And I think for most of those 12 years, De Gea was a brilliant servant, a brilliant shot stopper. Yes, towards the end of his tenure, mistakes started to be made, not least in that FA Cup final. And I think on that basis, it's the right decision by Erik ten Hag to move on to a new number one. I think it's about time, actually, that Manchester United started acting like a ruthless football club. They've, for too long, let players clog up the wage bill when really the time was to call it a day. Look at Phil Jones, for example, who's only just left at the end of his contract this summer. So I think United do need a new number one, but I think it should have been handled a lot better.
Talking of a new number one, it looks as though James Trafford is heading to Burnley. Had such an impactful under-21 European Championships. You've been part of the commentary team. You delivered the final for us alongside Darren Ambrose. Is he someone you see can make that step up easily into a Premier League first team?
Certainly from speaking to people who know a thing or two about goalkeepers, that's the impression that I get. Apparently he's got an Aaron Ramsdale-like personality, that inner confidence, as you saw actually when he stuck his tongue out to the fans in Georgia after making that incredible double save, not just the penalty, but the rebound as well. I think he's a goalkeeper who is good with his feet, although at times in the final, his distribution was a little bit wayward. He's obviously athletic. He's a good shot stopper. So, yeah, I think Burnley are getting a good player. It's a lot of money, £19 million all in for a player who hasn't played above League One level. He'll be the 17th most expensive goalkeeper in history. And my understanding is that he's jetting back from Georgia to undergo a medical and tie up personal terms. And that move to Turf Moor should go through pretty imminently. And obviously it's the Vincent Kompany connection, isn't it? Raiding his old club, Manchester City, for one of their up-and-coming stars.
Alex, any news on one of my old clubs, Sheffield United? I mean, I think some of the fans I've been speaking to a bit worried they haven't signed anyone yet. Any rumours going round?
Well, we're just about to speak to Paul Heckingbottom, actually, on the Game Day podcast. That'll be available later today. So we'll ask him what's happening on the transfer front. I know they have budget limitations. I think only about £20 million to spend this summer, which isn't a lot for a newly promoted team. They have an interest in Kyle Walker, but it looks like he'll probably stay at Manchester City now. And I think for Sheffield United fans, the key actually is keeping hold of their star players as much as adding to the squad, because Sander Berg is on the list of potential replacements for Declan Rice at West Ham, and Iliman Ndiaye is someone who attracted interest from the likes of Everton in January, and we expect that interest to occur again. So I think Heckingbottom, as much as trying to add to his squad, he just wants to keep those two star players as well.
Just quickly, you mentioned there about their transfer budget. You know, some people looking on will think, well, a newly promoted team will have made quite a lot of money from earning promotion. So why is it such a low budget?
Well, I think the owner wants to sell the football club,
right.
And actually he was quite advanced in negotiations with one potential bidder towards the end of last season. That seems to have gone quiet. And as we know from the Manchester United situation, when a club is up for sale, the owners don't really want to invest their own money in terms of boosting the squad. So I think that's the difficulty that Paul Heckingbottom and Sheffield United have got. And I think from Paul's perspective and from Blades fans' perspective, if the owner can find a buyer as soon as possible, that would certainly help the kitty.
Staring at a tough season.
Yeah.
Under those circumstances.
I think them and Luton, of the three that have come up, look the most vulnerable to going back down. Again, Luton as well are having to operate on a fairly small budget. They've just broken their transfer record to sign Mads Andersen, a centre-back from Barnsley, but their previous record was only about £2 million anyway. So I think they also are in need of a bit of Premier League experience. I wrote a line in my notebook at the end of last week that Ashley Young is a potential target for Luton. They're in advanced talks with Asmir Begovic as well, but Rob Edwards, I think, is going to have to be quite creative with the budget this summer.
And just lastly, as I mentioned, you were part of our commentary team for the Under-21 campaign at the Euros. We mentioned James Trafford. Anyone else that you think stood out for you that could actually make an impact going forward into the next season?
Well, he made a mistake by giving away the penalty. Some people have said it was soft. I think it probably was just about a penalty. But Levi Colwill, apart from that, I thought was excellent. And you can see why Brighton are willing to pay a club record fee for his services. You can see why Mauricio Pochettino really wants him to stay at Chelsea. And if you look at the tournament as a whole, if you're trying to pick out one player, and Gareth Southgate was watching the final, who's got a chance, I think, of making the senior squad for the Euros when they come around next summer, my money would be on Levi Colwill. I think he's an excellent defender.
Brilliant. Alex, we'll let you get off and
thanks, Alex.
Get yourself ready for Paul Heckingbottom. Fabulous as always to chat to you.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.